Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to recognize first that we have Students for Life and the Family Foundation with us here in the gallery today. And as you've noticed, some of our legislators are wearing some baby socks on our outfits today, and that is certainly not a fashion statement. It is merely a reminder on behalf of Students for Life and Family Foundation of one of the things and one of the responsibilities that we have within this chamber is to protect the vulnerable and to speak for those, especially those that do not have the ability or the power to be able to speak for themselves. And I've heard people state before that those of us who are very adamant about the pro-life movement are pro-birth, but we're not pro-life. And this accusation is usually leveraged at us because we might have some disagreements with respect to what is the best way to help somebody that is in need. Because I don't think anybody in this chamber on either side fails to have a commitment to try to help people who are sick, who are poor, who need assistance. But we may disagree on what is the most valid or effective ways in order to do so, and to suggest that because somebody doesn't agree with a particular process or method, that they therefore don't believe in the humanity of that person, I think is a false dilemma. On the other side, when we're talking about a child in the womb, we are having a debate with respect to differences of opinion on whether or not that constitutes humanity. And I would just like to make a basic argument on why I think that the same rights, the same protections that we all believe in extending to the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia should also be extended to those people that are currently in the womb. When I research this subject, I think the formative question that I ask myself is, when does life begin? And I've heard a lot of people say that that's above our pay grade. But I think as the Students for Life will tell you, and anybody that opens up a biology textbook will tell you, is that we do have very objective and simple to understand ways that we distinguish between life and non-life. We understand that the people in this room right now are alive. We understand that this desk is not. How do we do that? Well, we look at various characteristics. We look at things like homeostasis. We look at reproductive capacity. We look at growth. We look at the ability to turn food into energy. And when you meet those criteria, we acknowledge scientifically that we're talking about a living organism. And the truth of the matter is that at the moment of conception, you not only meet those sufficient criteria, you actually exceed them in order to be defined as life. The second question that we ask within this debate is the distinguishing between life and human life. And again, at the point of conception, if we look at DNA, we understand that you are uniquely human at the moment of conception in the womb. There is nobody standing outside of a delivery room right now wondering if when the birth is announced, it's going to be anything other than a human being. We know it's going to be a human being. So if all of the scientific and objective criteria that we use to distinguish between life and non-life, human life and other forms of life are met at that moment of conception, then why doesn't it make sense to expand the same definition of humanity to a person in the womb as when they leave the womb? And so as we go through, and there's going to be a lot of legislation this year that addresses a number of issues, legislation with bipartisan support, just like last year when we addressed foster care and issues within our system in order to improve it, to ensure that children could be able to grow up in families and homes where they would be loved and protected and secured. All we are asking at this moment is that we consider that legislation, and as we agree that every human being is entitled to certain protections and liberties and freedoms, we simply would like to expand some of those basic protections for life to those human beings that are still in the womb. And it is my hope that as we move forward this session that we can expand that definition of humanity, that we can acknowledge that every human being has a basic inherent right to life, and that one of our most sacred duties as legislators is to protect that right to life and that right to liberty. Thank you, Madam Speaker.